Hello out there, everybody. My name is Cliff Wiegers. I'm one of the founders of Wiegers Financial and Benefits. And as many of you know in the community, our firm has established a foundation, Care for Kids by Wiegers, which has everything to do with supporting different things for children. And today I am so excited because I've got JoAnne Smallbones, who is the executive director of the Buffalo Child and Youth Advocacy Center. And she's going to tell us about a great initiative and a center that is happening here in our city of Saskatoon. So, JoAnne, can you please tell me, first of all, for everybody out there, what's the center about? Let's start with that, and then we'll continue on with why you're involved with it and why you're so excited about it.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me. We're the Buffalo Child and Youth Advocacy Center. We're just starting up. So what it is, an organization that creates a space for child maltreatment, so child abuse investigations, where we bring in all services under one roof to provide care for the children and families. It's an integrated approach to the care. It's trauma-informed. So there's less long-term impact on the children and the families to support them. So it brings all the services together to share information, but it's really important about being in the same room, co-located. It creates those great working relationships where you know about one another. You're more apt to share information. There's obviously regulations in place to what you can share, but there's more availability and likelihood that people are going to discuss differences in files or findings within these investigations if they're co-located and they're together. It also is far more trauma informed. For instance, if I was interviewing a child and I noticed injuries on them, and this is a space away from the police station, and at that point I would send them to the police station after I was done the interview to get photographed. If I was interviewing a child and through that interview, they disclosed to me that there was a sexual assault that just occurred in the last few hours, like 48 hours, whichever, I would then send them to the hospital to have a sexual assault kit completed. The way that we're working this right now and with the space that's been provided, we're hopeful to create the environment where instead of sending kids to the police station for photographs, we've got a room in the same building, a child-friendly environment, trauma-informed, and we call the police to come there to take the photograph so they don't have to go to a police station to do that. We also are hopeful to provide, and we're building that, is to have a suite instead of sending a kiddo and family off to the hospital to have a kit completed, that we are able to call in a sexual assault nurse examiner to come into our space. That'll be a medical grade suite where the kit can be completed there rather than navigating another system. We have lots of space that we can have separate private family rooms. I guess we have one area where there could be two families at a time, and sometimes there's multiple children or support people, and they're basically on top of one another. It's quite a small space, but in this area that we have now, we'll work to getting those families. They have separate family rooms, and then we'll have a large area that if a kid just needs to get out and burn around, they've got the space to do that. But also so that if police or social services or one of the other agencies need to meet with the family privately, that they'll have that space. And then one of us, it's just me right now, but I could stay with the family and make sure the child's safe and play with them out in that room while they have their private conversations. We'll also have a cultural room in there as well that can be considered a family room or another meeting space. So whichever room I guess the family would be most comfortable with. We have another room that we're holding to be a space where there could be a counseling facility. So we'll obviously set it up with acoustic paneling so everything's quiet, and then have it child-friendly in there as well, where instead of, again, the kids having to go out and navigate another system with families, that we have the services coming there and we have their appointments in that same space.
Awesome. What goes through my mind when I think about the center and what it would deal with would be whether some kind of a trauma, whether it's physical, mental, sexual. Can you kind of give me an example of a kid coming in and what that would look like? Or and again, I get what we've talked about. If the kid has to go to multiple locations to tell their same story, it seems like that trauma's being relived in a hard way, worse than if it was right there. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, there's so much to that. So I guess I should also explain that I retired with 30 years of policing, and over half of my career was spent in investigations. And over 8 years of that was spent specifically in child abuse investigations. So I've been to court lots. I've done loads and loads of interviews. I've trained other police officers and social workers throughout the province on child forensic interviewing.
Give me an example of a child coming into the center now, the way it exists today. and what they would go through versus what they would have had to do in the past.
Okay. So if I, again, had a kiddo that has bruises, they'd have to go to a police station to get photographs. But here now they'll stay in our space. We call the
Okay.
police to come to that location. If there's a chance through that interview that there could be a sexual assault or there's like a kit can be completed, they would have to go and navigate that other system on their own. When a child maltreatment case comes through, it's traumatic for everybody involved, right? And most often it's a family member, somebody that's close to the family that is the perpetrator. So it not only is finding out the news that your child has been abused, but also it's your entire world is imploding, right? That might be the only person that has an income in your home. That might be somebody that's quite affluent in some other way. There's lots of control that comes with that. So even if there's a caregiver that's protective of that child, their world as they knew it is imploding. So when we talk about the cup being full, the cup is like full. So just coming to a space where finding a parking spot, for instance, can be overwhelming, right? So if we have a space that's very clearly set out, and that's what we're working on, right? So that they know exactly, we'll have signs up. This is the Buffalo Center. This is where you park. And then we have a great spot where they can come into have a private area to go to with their family instead of having other families around. Because when you're, again, in the middle of chaos, you don't want to be in more chaos. So being in a space where there's other families that you don't know, even if it's all friendly, but you're already so upset by what's going on. Now you've got to be in a room
Well,
with other people.
And I can't even imagine, and this is no knock against any of the hospitals, but when you get in there and there's a big waiting room, even if you're in the emergency, who's getting in anytime quick?
Right. And I mean, the hospital staff, like they're working their butts off on everything.
Yes.
They're overwhelmed all the time. Like it's
Yes.
so busy. But like a forensic kit is a low priority in their world because they're looking at like trauma.
Yeah.
We're going to save a life right now. So clearly collecting evidence for police or courts is not a priority, right? So
Yes.
often those families will wait a really, really long time. And again, they're already heightened, stressed out, terrified, and then they have to wait even longer, makes it that much more difficult. So we talk about trauma, like if, I don't know, I always give the example, if I were to go out and cut my hand right now and like a scratch,
Yeah.
and I don't do anything with it. I don't wash it. I don't put a Band-Aid on it. And I go out and I play with horses and I don't wash it again. And I go to the gym and I do all and I don't wash it. Well, that wound is going to end up festering and it's going to like probably get infected. And if I don't treat the infection, it's going to hit my blood. And if I don't treat that, I could likely die, right?
Yes.
Trauma is very much the same. So if we can have trauma and I always compare it to like a front end load, like we do everything to wrap and support that at the front end, that we're going to have less long-term impact.
Yes.
Right. So it's often what we like having done all the work and worked in all these areas, what we see in community right now with homelessness and addictions and poverty. If we go back and talk to the people that are in the streets right now, I'll bet you that probably 98% of the time that we go back in time, we'll find out that they were victims of child maltreatment at some point. And yes, and often, like when I worked in homicide, there'd be suspects that I would deal with, and the same thing, I would go backwards in time to where I could see they were in home like ACE scores, so adverse childhood experiences.
Yes.
There's 10 of them. I think the number is if you rate 6 out of 10 on those ACE scores, that you're 4,000% more likely to become an intravenous drug user. Like the numbers are insane.
Yeah.
So going back to that, you'd see somebody here for a homicide, but we go back in time and look, and you'd see that this all started in a home where there was addictions, poverty, incarceration, child maltreatment.
So again, going back to what you said, for the child themselves to get that treatment in one center, extremely important, not waiting through the big lineups and everything else. But again, if they don't, which most maybe never see that happen or get that, down the road, there's a way bigger risk of going down the jail time, drug time, all that stuff. So my question to you is, in Saskatoon, what's that looking like across the country? Like, how are we ranked? Are we getting less care or more care than we need?
Well, what I can say for sure is that Saskatchewan is number one almost every year, year after year, for child maltreatment and domestic violence. And that's just what we know is reported. We know for a fact that child maltreatment, domestic violence, and sexual violence is all underreported. So if we're already number one, and we know that that's underreported, there's that much more that's happening out there
Yes.
that we're unaware or that's not being reported. So What we do know too, which is evidence-based, when a child and youth advocacy center is operating and is doing the parts of prevention and education and out there in community talking about this so people are more aware,
Yes.
the numbers go higher. It's not because there's more sexual assaults occurring or child maltreatment occurring. It's because people are more aware and they're talking about it and there's a place to go and there's resources that they're understanding. So we're going to see the reporting go higher.
Yeah.
But that's actually a good thing,
Yes.
right? We know that now people are coming forward.
Yeah. Unless the wound that doesn't get treated.
Yes.
Okay. Right. JoAnne, just to be clear, what services and what professionals are going to be in this building?
So right now, the way it's working, we have social services, police officers, and victim services all work together. We're going to be on the main floor where they're upstairs. So the plan is to have some legal documents that say that we're able to all work together.
Yes.
But also, education is a big part of this. Medical is a big part of this. Mental health is a big part of this. And so what that will look like eventually, and when they're fully operational, is that every morning at, say, 8 a.m., each of the services will get the names that came in overnight. And so say that's JoAnne Smallbones. So each of them will get JoAnne Smallbones, and they'll get a brief on the file that's come forward. And so each of those services will then look up JoAnne Smallbones and in the information that's relevant to that. Only that. They're not looking at all the other stuff that goes with it, but that's what they share is what's relevant to JoAnne Smallbones. And then at 9 a.m., they'll come to, I call it the magic table, but the table intake. And at that point is when all of those services will come together and share what they know about JoAnne Smallbones. So that's where I think the magic happens, is because that information is shared in real time as soon as we learn about it, and it paints a very different picture. So a good example of that is this was a file I had a long time ago, but a kiddo was doing really well in school. Attendance was great, very interactive with peers and teachers, always well kept, clean, hygiene was great, had long, beautiful hair that used to often be kept in braids. And they started seeing a really rapid decline as far as attendance, hygiene, some really big outbursts that they noticed were really different. So the school was paying attention and they kind of were making calls, but it wasn't going anywhere because everyone has their own mandates, right? It doesn't meet the mandate, so there's nothing more they can do. It's just information at that time. And so another red flag for them was that the girl had shown up and her head was shaved. So then they were really concerned because she was quite prideful of that. So they called in again, but again, doesn't meet the mandate. A shaved head on a child. What does she disclose? So everyone has their own mandates, right? So then the police have been called, I think, 3 times to that residence for disturbances. And we get there and the police would check in and it would be have conversations. And there'd be lots of things that could cause people yelling at one another. So it could be finances, it could be whatever other difficulties are going on in the home, but there's no signs of anything criminal. So police clear, no report, they move on because it doesn't meet their mandate, right?
Right.
Medical ends up with showing up with a spiral fracture of her arm. That can be suspicious on its own, the way that fracture occurs, but the explanation of injury was that they were playing on a playground suite and fell down and broke their arm while swinging, right? So that could cause a spiral fracture. Parents seem supportive, everybody seemed fine, doesn't meet that date. So everyone has a duty to report, but if it isn't there, right? So it wasn't reported. Social services had several, I don't remember how many, but third-party calls. Again, doesn't meet the mandate, it gets screened out. Eventually, we ended up with one of the younger siblings with massive head trauma. And that's how we got involved and that's how we learned about everything. So if we had a relationship where we were working all together in the same building and we all meet every morning and there's these, social services you know what, we've got these several calls about JoAnne Smallbones. Does anybody else know anything about that? It's more apt that information will be shared. And more likely that we'll get JoAnne Smallbones in for an interview because there's been lots of calls about that residence and that family. And then hopefully we can prevent that massive head trauma, right?
Yes.
So you intervene earlier, there's a better chance that we can intervene and get supports and services in place before anything like that happens.
Why is this something that should matter to every member of our community? Why should we be concerned about this as citizens of Saskatoon?
Well, the children are our future, as cliche as that may sound. They are our next generation.
Yep.
And we have to be able to care for the vulnerable above all else. We have to be able to support the children and the families that need that because that's what we're going to end up. If we don't do that just because it's what's right, We know that it's going to have long-term impact and we're going to see it show up later.
Yes.
A fella, he was a retired Edmonton police inspector. He went on and got further education. He does a lot of research, but one of the statistics that he shared, he has done a lot of research papers, but he did some research in the Edmonton Institution for Women. And he said that 100% of the women at the Edmonton Institution for Women, which is like the Edmonton Max, prior to their first offense, 100% of them were victims of sexual violence. So that number is massive. And child abuse, like I said, 98% of the people that I'd be talking to on the street that we see that everyone's talking about in community right now, when we go and sit and talk to them, I will bet that probably 98% of them will go back and tell you that this is where the trauma started. And we know Dr. Fauci, through the ACE scores, so the adverse child experiences, so there's 10, he had spoke about like the 6 out of 10 for the 4,000% increase for intravenous drug use. Dr. Fauci speaks about how through the ACE scores that there's also the risk for addictions and poverty and homelessness, right? So he talks about early intervention and acknowledging and having the right resources. He also speaks about that. There's another doctor that supports that work. Her name is Dr. Nadine Brooke Harris. She's written books. She has TED Talks. She's pretty incredible, but she also speaks about ACE scores and her experiences in inner city hospitals down in the US and have that book. So we know that already. And I think that this is the upstream approach to what we're seeing there. But it's also just the right thing to do. Children are most vulnerable. And out of all the work I did in the police service, this was the most meaningful work that I've ever done. And that's what brought me to do this today, was to be involved still.
Well, and I always will go back to when you first talked to us about what your vision was and what you were trying to create. It was easy for us to get behind this because, again, we're all about kids and we're so happy to accommodate you in that fashion. And again, your passion and your vision and your enthusiasm for it. And I remember you started crying when you were in our meeting, so I appreciated that. Let's talk also about the team of people you bring together, because the team of people that you're working with to help serve those kids that have gone through these various experiences, that team has to be strong. This center, why is this, again, better for the team to be kind of in the same center as opposed to, again, being outside for both not only the work you're doing with the kids, but for them personally?
Thank you. It's so important to take care of the people that are doing the work. There's no doubt about that. If we have a space that feels like a good place for you to be, you feel better about doing the work. We want to make sure that the people doing the work receive all the training that's required, receive all the other supports that's required. Because if our people doing the work feel good about doing it and they feel confident about doing that, that will reflect to the families that come through our doors. So I know that if they walk in and they can tell that you care and that you want to be there and you feel good about it because you know that you can do it because you've got this background in training and you're always up to date on best practice, that family is going to feel pretty good about you taking over. Like rather than somebody that's just going through the motions. Because
not to mention the kiddos that
right.
him or her that are going to have a better chance to get through it.
Yeah. And I think kids are so instinctual, like they can feel that. So you can say good morning, but they can tell whether it's like you're into it or not, right? And so I think having the people, like caring about the people doing the work to support them to do their best is only going to make it better for everybody. And what they're doing is really important. We lost my friend who worked so hard at this and it broke him. He tried his best to recover. He just couldn't. But I know that he was really proud that we were starting this because he knew it would make a difference. And I do it for him too.
JoAnne, I really appreciate that. And again, I can see the level of passion and conviction you bring to this. And that's why it makes it so much easier to support it. And so if we're looking at the outside communities, like there's businesses that are watching, there's individuals that are watching. Obviously, there's no end to need for cash contributions and different things. Is there any top items you want to bring to the attention of the viewers that you guys are in need of?
We need champions. We need people talking about it like you're helping us right now. We need people that come out, and I never ever thought I'd say this, but like and follow the Buffalo Center on our social media, because the more awareness that we're creating is really, really important. We definitely still need financial support to keep it rolling. We have office donated by Outsource Office Furniture, and we've got obviously the building that's been donated. We have overhead costs that we have to pay, but we don't have to pay rent, which we were super grateful for. The furnishings for the office side of things have been donated. We need big screen TVs in the family rooms. We need big screen TV in the boardroom in order to facilitate that intake if we have to do anything by media. All of the child side needs to be done. So I have a couple really great gals that are working at picking things that want to put on the wish list because it has to be quite intentional. We've been meeting with like Indigenous peoples because it really impacts our people.
Yes.
Over 80% of the people that come through our doors are Indigenous. That goes back to all the systemic things.
Yes.
But also people with lived experience. So we've been meeting with them like, what would you like it to look like? What are some things that would make you feel comfortable, safe? So we've been guided along the colors in our walls, which are light sage green, keeping wood natural, but also with the decor for the other rooms. So we're going to work with an artist to create a decal that's going to kind of wrap as like the province of Saskatchewan around. And so we're going to have to pay for that.
Yes.
We have to pay for all the furnishings that we're going to be looking at, which are quite specific because they have to be child friendly, but they have to be wipeable. We want to make sure it stays with a theme. We don't want it to be just mishmashed in a way because the feedback that we get is they want like no chaos, just soft, like
Yes.
comforting. So we don't want just a bunch of stuff. It has to really be reflective of the vision. So we'll be adding that to the list. We need a fridge, we need a stove, and all of those things are important for the staff that are going to be working within the building. But also we do this after hours. So sometimes we're going to need access to things for the kiddos and families when they can be there for some time. Sometimes we could be interviewing 5 kids, right? Or 4 kids,
Yes.
whichever. We would like little mini fridges in each of the rooms for the families to be able to access whatever they need at that time. They don't have to ask because nobody wants to ask.
Yes.
But if we have snacks and little mini fridges available with cold drinks, that'd be really helpful. And we need one for our medical suite. So we need 3 mini fridges and a full-size fridge and a stove. And we also have asked for like a barbecue or a Blackstone so that we can come together with that whole environment, like I spoke about, bringing people together to eat. And
Okay. No, that's and
great relationships.
So everybody out there, we need a ton of stuff for this center. And if you've got it and you want to help make a difference again, please go online, get a hold of these people. So is there one thing that you hope viewers remember after watching this conversation? And if it was, what's the one thing you'd want them to remember?
That integrated practice works. Bringing the services together, sharing information matters. It makes a difference and it will have long-term impact. I think that that's the most important part. And I think the CYC, the way it's been described to me and the way I can see it now is that it's the glue. So all these other services like police and social services in particular, or people are always transferring in and out.
Yes.
So the standard tends to shift with whoever's there. But if we have a CYC, it's the glue that makes sure that that standard and the core stays the same, right? So that people can transfer in and out, and even the CYC staff can transfer in and out, but the core values will remain the same. So we're held to those 10 standards, right?
Okay.
And we make sure that those are all abided by, and that we make sure that all of our people inside are working towards that same vision.
Perfect. Okay, so last question for you, JoAnne. After everything you've seen throughout your career and everything that you're building through this center, what gives you hope?
I was told this would never happen, and here I am.
Okay.
I really think that like people like you and other people in Saskatoon and Saskatchewan get it. They know that there's a problem and that we need to have people sticking up for kids. And we also need to take care of the families that are taking care of the kids. It's so important. And if we don't do it, we're going to see long-term impact. If that's the only reason that we have to look at, I think I have hope because we're here. We're talking about this. It's
Nice.
incredible.
Well, let's hope 5 years out or 10 years out that we're looking back and we're going, boy, what a small thing we started with, and it's growing and it's made such an impact on people. I have no doubt that's going to happen just because of the enthusiasm I see in you and the passion and the conviction. So I'm hoping that you build a very big, strong team that comes to work every day with the same enthusiasm you do.
Thank you. I'm really lucky too. I've got a great board behind me. It's a great group of people working towards the same vision. And I have so much support there too, which feels really great. I'm alone in the big building during the day,
Okay.
but I'm really supported. And then people like you that step forward and are willing to help us out. It's a big deal. Thank you.
Okay, well, I hope to be interviewing you in a year's time
Mm.
to say, hey, what's happened in the last year? Yeah. JoAnne, thank you for coming in. Thank you for making a difference for the kids.
Thank you for your help and support.
Okay.
Thank you.